Self-care is not intuitive. In fact, it goes against many of the things that we have learned about ourselves, things we were raised to believe about work and ourselves in the world. I'm here to change that. I'm here to change the narrative and blow up the self-care box. I'm your host, Desiree Rue, licensed clinical social worker, self-care strategist, freelance writer, a lover, and a fighter. And I'm Self Cares AF. And this is Self Cares AF, the podcast. You ask me, and I answer the questions that get you out of the box and into the life that lights you up from the inside out. Hello, how are you? Well, it's me, it's Desiree, and I'm back for yet another conversation about self care and just literally disrupting this whole idea of traditional norms around what we do for ourselves. But listen, today's conversation is going to be a little different as things have been happening. And I know I have been experiencing a few feelings, a few observations, and I think you may have too. So I wanted to just take a little pause from our question and answering series. We were talking about self care and parenting, and we will get back to that because listen, I have been a single parent now for a full week with my 5-year-old grandson, and I need to talk about it. Like, I have things to say. So we are definitely going to get back to talking about self-care and parenting and what that looks like and how we really can continue or just get parts of ourselves while we are taking care of our children, big and small, um, throughout their lives. But I wanted to talk a little bit about self-care and politics. Yes, politics. Did you cringe a little bit when I said that word? Listen, we've got a lot going on here in the United States around politics. And so, as things have been happening and unfolding, and the race has kind of changed in our presidential elections, right? Um, there's been an uptick in conversation. There's been even more of an uptick because of the change. And so I thought maybe today we can just talk through it because there is still an opportunity, even though things feel very much chaotic within our elections cycle right now. There's still an opportunity to ensure that you are getting what you need for yourself and from yourself. Listen, I want to talk about the difference between what we feel and what is real, right? Because the messaging that we have all been privy to, whether we want to be privy to it or not, many of us are, we're watching one program and here comes something, a message. You may even be getting messages on your cell phone. You may be getting texts and emails because somewhere at some point you signed up for something and they got your information and now they are sending you messaging, requesting donations or asking you to do certain things. Make a phone call or, soliciting your vote. And it can be and feel very overwhelming. So I want to talk through that because this is really happening. Messaging, no matter which way it's coming, right? It can trigger lots of emotions. They can trigger our lived experiences. They can trigger, right, our vicarious trauma and even the trauma that we've experienced ourselves. When I say vicarious trauma, there are many communities who experience vicarious trauma, meaning that the trauma within that community did not happen to them particularly, but culturally, the trauma has been passed down through stories, through images, right? Through the media, through history, through the things that you've read. And so, what vicarious trauma is simply you feel a trauma as if it has happened to you simply because you've heard about it, or you're reading about it, or you see something about it. And so your body experiences those emotions that go along with that event as if the event has actually happened to you. And again, we see that in many cultures where in 2024 or in your lifetime, you didn't experience a cultural trauma personally. But when you see it, see a movie about it, or you read history about it, or you see imaging in a museum about it, you have those same you have feelings of anger or disappointment or fear as if it actually happened to you. Now, because when it has happened in your community, in your culture, it has essentially happened to you. It's a part of your overall story. But there is a difference between the thing actually happening to you, your hand being touched by fire versus knowing you lived in a community that experienced a fire. And I'm not saying this to discount anyone's cultural experience, the collective cultural experience, because they are real. And the feelings that we have around them are real. But I'm just saying this to say that in this cycle, when you see or hear information or wording or language that is not sensitive to your collective cultural experience, it can trigger some vicarious traumatic feelings. And so many people right now are going through that. We recently had a turn in our presidential elections. And listen, I'm not here to tell you who to vote for, although I am wearing a shirt that says vote, because what I hope that you do is exercise your right. Exercise your right to make a choice, to make a decision, to hire who you think is best for the job. And not just for the president, but for every elected official, because we're electing people into roles. So I do hope that you participate. I want you to participate in voting. And so I'm wearing this shirt as a billboard, to walking billboard. Anybody that sees me, I'm basically saying, just go vote. Exercise your right. But again, let's get back to the messaging, because like you, I am on social media. I love social media, actually. I do not find it to be taxing or anything negative, because I'm always looking for the positive. I love seeing what the people in my circle are doing. Listen, I have so many online nieces and nephews, just watching them grow over the years. And so, I'm invested in their lives. So I'm always, on social media, following my different friends and people that I've met over time. And I see the things that are being posted, right, in the ads. You'll always notice that they're sponsored, right? They're paid ads. And advertising media messages are a part of a campaign. Not just a presidential election, but mostly all elections. It's how candidates get their message out, get their ask out, let people see who they are and what they're about. It's the high level of what their platforms are, what they're saying they're going to do or want to do, that many of us don't go to their websites to read. And I'm not trying to throw shade. Okay? I'm really not. However, oftentimes, and that's just in most businesses, right? We're going to put the messaging that's most important, the top of the email, the thing we want you to get. We're going to send it out. We're going to send you a short synopsis or what we call a call to action, what we want you to do at the end of the so that is just, that's just how the game goes. That's just how marketing and those type of things go. And so what we've been seeing a lot of are that kind of messaging, but it's not around trying to say this nicely. It's not around issues related to the role of the job. It's really related to things that are just, about a person's character or what they look like or just everything but the thing we really need to be talking about. And so I just want to just kind of talk through that because it's important for you to understand that this is an external piece of life or the thing that's happening on the outside of you that you cannot control that is going to absolutely impact the inside of you, the parts of you that you can control, your response. So I just wanted to leave like a few tips on how do you maintain yourself, manage the stress that you are experiencing vicariously through this media, this campaign material. And listen, it does not matter which side of the aisle you are falling on, or even if you're in the middle. It doesn't matter because the campaigning style is the same. Everyone has a message that they're throwing out. Everyone is using certain words and languages that are very short, like a commercial tune, like a little jingle. We remember jingles. And that's why we always, we have a jingle. Branding, people come up with names. Why? So that you'll remember. So we see that in what's happening in these political races, right? They're creating wording and jingles and slogans and things to say so that you will remember it. Because when you remember it, you will remember them. When you remember them, possibly you will vote for them. So there is a lot of psychology that goes into the messaging. And depending on where you are, what your bias is, one or two things is going to happen. That messaging is going to resonate with you or it's going to piss you the hell off. And that is the gamble that all of that messaging takes, no matter which side it comes from. They're putting it out there to resonate, and the pissing people off is just, that's just going to happen and that's okay. But we really want to put this messaging out there because once you get a messaging in your head, then you start looking for it, believing it, finding evidence for it. So there's a lot of psychology in messaging. And you have to prepare yourself that this is going to happen. It's been happening and it happens every time. Have you noticed that every 4 years we go through this cycle of anxiety? Every time it's time to vote, it's like, oh God, here we go, right? Because now everyone has an opinion, because all the ugliness starts to come out. If I told you it was going to rain before you left home and I said, hey, it's going to rain today, what would you do? You grab your umbrella. You consider your outfit. Like, I got to wear certain shoes because it's going to rain today. You may even decide what you need to do for your hair if you still have some. Okay, guys, I know some of you, you don't have your hair, and it's okay. But for those of us who have to consider our dues, right? You would even consider how you want to wear your hair today. You would be prepared because you knew what was going to happen. So here's what's going to happen every time there's an election, whether it's an election for the president, whether it's an election for school board, whether it's an election for the carpet cleaner. This is what's going to happen. There's going to be messaging. There's going to be people soliciting for support. Knowing that these things are going to happen puts you in a position to decide and to prepare. We know that November is just around the corner. And so we have what seems like a short amount of time to deal with this, but feels like it's going to be forever. So now that you know, How will you prepare yourself for it? So here's what I would love for you to consider. I'd love for you to consider, how am I going to prepare myself for this season of messaging? And there are several things that you can do because you are in control of it. You get to decide how much material you want to take in and where. Now, I was telling somebody this the other day. I literally like watching people fight. When I was in high school and there was the rumor that a fight was going to ensue, trust and believe I stayed late, okay? I was there. And so in my mind, sometimes watching the way that these cycles go is the equivalent of a fight. I want to see what such and such is going to say about such and such. So I read it. I look at it. I look for it. Why would I do that? Why would you do that to yourself? Because to me, my perception of it is that it is not personal, but it is a part of a process. So I'm looking at the wording. I'm looking at how many times they're using a word. I'm like, oh, that's the message that they want people to get. That's the name that they want to start calling things, because it's a process. It's almost like a game. And so I look at it like that. And it is, our elections are very serious. But the serious work that we do in elections come from us. It comes from our voting. It comes from our own research. The things that are available to us online, not necessarily what is being fed to us, but the things that we can find. It comes through being active throughout the year, not just during the time when it's time to vote, but knowing what candidates have been doing because you've been involved in a process all along. So for some of us, we are watching this because it is almost entertaining to see what is happening, and you get to decide that. But for you, if the wording or the method of the message is triggering, you get to turn it off. You get to decide how much of it you want to engage with and where. You get to scroll past everything that you see on social media. You get to not engage in the conversation. You get to do that. Why? Why should you not engage in the conversation? Well, one of the things that I like to tell people, that when you are talking to someone, number one, know your audience. Know if your audience is open to learning something new, is really listening, or simply wanting to debate. And that is something you're going to have to discern in the beginning of the conversation. Because sometimes people will say, well, what do you think about that? Or why do you think such and such? And it's not that they really want to know why you think that. Is that is the question that gets them to what they really want to do, which is tell you what they're thinking. They want to engage in a debate, but you get to decide. You get to decide how much explanation you want to give, or how little you want to give. Because at the end of the day, what really matters is how you vote, and your vote is private. Your vote happens at your, whenever you go, whenever you mail it in, or whenever you turn it in, right? So you don't have to justify it, just like you don't have to justify why you say no, why you tell someone you can't go. You don't have to justify unless you want to. But you should discern whether or not someone is gathering information by talking with you, or simply trying to goad you into a debate that you don't have to go into. It takes a lot of energy to not do that. It takes a lot of energy to hold in the things that you want to say to someone. But if you say it, you might go to jail. Okay? If you say it, it's not going to end up in the way that you had intended. So know your own self and go accordingly. You don't owe anyone any explanation. You don't owe anyone any justification. If you want to educate someone on something that they don't know about, or if you feel that someone is giving information that is not true, you do not have to be the encyclopedia or the source. You can cite the source. Save yourself some time. Let a person know, oh, you can go, well, that's not true. And here's where you can go to find that information. And that's it. You get to decide. So in this time, many there's a lot of things I've read, on LinkedIn, and I've read in various posts, from my friends and friends of friends, you know, depending on which community you're in, or depending upon which party you're affiliated, or which issue means the most to you, that it's time to just dig in and just to be prepared, take care of yourself, dig in, because it's about to get ugly. It's been ugly. And again, if you knew it was going to rain outside, what would you do? You know that this is ugly. So what is your plan? And you get to decide one. So self-care and politics can go together, because you can take care of yourself by being very intentional on the information that you take in and the information that you seek. You can be very intentional about the conversations that you participate in and those that you walk away from. You can be very intentional about who you ask information of and who you give information to. All of those things based on what you need. You don't have to represent the culture. You don't have to defend the culture. You don't have to represent the community. You don't have to defend the community to a person who is not looking to get information, but just looking to argue. You don't have to. You can simply vote your choice, do your own research, and watch what's happening. A lot of friends get lost, right, during this little season, because people start to speak their truths about what they actually believe in that maybe you didn't know, because there was no conversation around it. But now that, the conversation is out because it's an issue in an election, more people are speaking, how they truly feel about it. And you get to decide whether or not, that aligns with your personal values, and if you only want to be aligned with people who align with certain things that you believe. That is your choice and your right. And you get to decide how you want to do that. So self-care and politics can go hand in hand, because you already know, you've experienced it more than once, how it all works. The messaging, the methods, the jingle, the wording, what parts people will highlight, because the parts that people highlight are for a specific audience. So if it's pissing you off, you are not the intended person for that particular messaging. If it resonated with you, you remembered it, and you find yourself repeating it, it was something that was meant for you because you aligned with it. Who's right? I believe everybody believes that they're right. So no matter which side of this coin that you're on, you feel like the other side is doing something wrong, the other side feels like you're doing something wrong. At the end of the day, you get to choose. So I just wanted to just say, right now feels really, really hard. It feels like, oh my God, so negative, and the energy is negative. But if I told you that it was going to rain today before you even left home, what would you do? You would grab your umbrella. You would decision what you should be wearing to protect yourself against the weather. I'm telling you, messaging is going to be the message. What you are seeing is what you are going to get. And you get to decide how you want to respond to that, whether it be engage in the conversation, not engage in the conversation, whether it be provide the support or not provide the support. You get to decide. But I do hope that you vote. You vote your conscience, you vote your interests, you vote your values, you vote for the candidate that you believe will do the best job. But that you go and vote because it is your right to be able to do so. It is your right. We hire our elected officials because they work for us. Every last one of them, right down to if the person who brings the carpets into the building is elected, they work for the people. They work for the community. You are the people. You are the community. So I hope that you engage in that you step into your power and not allow all of this rain and noise to make you feel powerless, because there's a difference between what we feel and what is real. And what is real is that you have the power. What you feel could be totally different. If you feel powerless, that's not real. You have the power. The power always lies in your vote. So I hope that this has been helpful for you as we move forward. We got a little ways to go, right? And as we move forward, but again, if I told you it was going to rain tomorrow, today, in the next hour, what would you do to prepare for it? I want you to think about that question as you engage and go through the rest of this election cycle until the day you get to exercise your power. So take care. Let me know what you think. I'm always wanting to know what you think. So subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate you being here. I hope that today's episode has sparked an idea or challenged a long-held belief or just moved the needle a little closer to what you want. Let's stay connected. Visit my website, sign up for my newsletter, hit me up on Instagram at Desi Eats and Travels, and tag me when you are being self-care-ish AF. I appreciate your time. Comment on this episode. You know your thoughts are important in these podcast streets. So comment, give me your feedback, and I will see you here again next week.